what is today 45, to the Wunchy building, which is still standing, and that's where he would sell them. But it's amazing to think that two white boys, brothers, from the north, raised $35,000, build a ship, the Clotilda, I think is the way it's spelled or pronounced. They went to Benin, Africa, Benin, and they brought 160 Africans back and sold them all in North Carolina, or Virginia, North Carolina, and they got it done. But the descendants of these people know it, and they've had the DNA, and they got Discover magazine. I'm sure with you all in a little bit. National Geographic, and the white people knew that they weren't supposed to bring any new slaves in, but they still were bringing them in, and these African men and women didn't know how to proceed with the language of the customs and anything else, and they were beaten. Oh, so much happened to our people. It was just
And a
ridiculous.
lot of those people, I think the place you're talking about, a lot of those people stayed. It was like, was it an island, or it was they did
Well,
it?
they got a lot of, well, John Lafitte got a lot of them from the Gullah Islands. Because, see, what was happening is the white ship captains were throwing them off if they looked sick or acted sick. And the Indians in the Gullah Islands would take their little boats and go out and bring them in. That's why the Gullah Islands had so many blacks that were African. And they dressed like Africans. They spoke with that drool like, Africans. But those who lived, they would sneak them in all up and down from Texas all the way up
So
to
they
New
were they
York.
were they were doing that despite the law that said not
Yes,
to. They were
yes,
doing it
yes.
anyway,
And just like people doing drugs today, cocaine and everything and
and then bringing
marijuana,
them
they
in, and
slipping.
yeah, they sneaking them in. So they were doing the same thing back in those
So
days.
they finally found the ship. It had sunk, and they found it. And then they found different people who were descended from those there. And they said, how could the United States? I said to myself, just like Trump,
How
they
good
were
did it?
getting kickback money. Kickback. You bring 200 slaves in here, you're going to make 20,000, 30,000.
Right.
Because they were selling the big guys and tall women, not necessarily fat. Big money.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to stop it because they could sell the slaves,
Yeah.
keep selling them over
Right.
and over.
Right.
And I said, oh my. I say, no, I don't think I'm going to kill myself. But I might have killed myself during that time because it was so horrible. I remember this old lady telling my mother that they walked them. And see, she ended up marrying my grandfather's oldest brother, Belle Flem. That John Lafitte took she, her sister, and her niece from one of the Gullah Islands. And the touring Texans, we went to the Gullah Islands.
Wait a minute. Say again who John Lafitte was.
John Lafitte was a mulatto who was from Louisiana.
Uh huh.
But he did all kinds of hateful things against blacks.
Okay.
And then at the last minute, he goes somewhere in North Louisiana and claims he's totally white. But she said he would bring them to, he brought them to Galveston like he did others,
Uh huh.
and walk them up 45 and then sell them at Old Town Springs.
He brought them from Galveston on the ship to
Brought them
Galveston.
to Galveston.
Okay,
From
gotcha.
the Gullah Islands.
Oh, from the Gullah Islands.
From the
Okay.
Gullah Islands. And I was telling my...
How did he get around? He had to go all around South America then because
I don't know, but he would go to the Gullah Islands.
it's on the east, and you have to come all the way around to
come
come around to the other side because
But
Galveston
he
is
would
on the
come-
west.
He would come right to Texas,
Uh huh.
to Galveston, and walk them down 45. They call it the Nigger Trail, the Indian Trail, and go to Springs. And that building where they were sold is still standing. It was called Fort Springs, and the man who owned it was Wunchy. Now, when you go down Old Town Springs, you see Wunchy Street. You see the Wunchy building. And her sister died. She raised her niece. And she said they couldn't let the Gull Island go because that's where a lot of the Africans live because the white captains had threw them overboard. Some of them pretended to be sick. And what had happened, the United States government said you can't bring them in. But if you slip them in, they can't be sick. They can't be carrying no disease. And my aunt told me, she said, you're right, Velma, because my great grandmother wore all them African headdress and all those beads and talked with a real strange accent.
Uh-huh.
I said that was Patriot, and her last name was Assa, Aussa. And she started crying. And I told her this old lady had told my mom, and I was sitting there listening, and she said, people have no idea how it breaks your heart when you know you'll never see your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your
Right.
children
Right.
again. And they use this to put this psychological issue in our brains to where we figure we can't do anything about it, so we just accept it and move on.
Right.
But yet it's destroying
It's
us. You
right.
see?
Exactly.
And that's what is
And
happening.
that's why one of the reasons that is important. This thing that Ellsworth and Hubbard, was it
Mhm.
Ellsworth and Hubbard? Well, I know Ellsworth
Mhm.
at least is talking about doing this. What is this thing that he's talking about there? The national where they study the trauma of what black people went
Yes,
through,
yes,
and you
yes.
study all of that in the DNA, and
Mhm.
you study all of that. It's like a eugenics type of
Yeah,
thing, but you
yeah.
study that, and then and it goes off into what type of medicine. Oh, don't fall!
Oh, you got it?
I'm here.
Yeah, stand up, stand up. Don't do that because you about to fall.
Yeah.
Don't want you to fall.
I don't need to.
No.
So
Too young to do that.
so
That's true.
yeah, they and so they because his proposal is to put a national, which I could call the name of it, but actually it's going to study why or why certain medicines
Mhm.
work in blacks and it doesn't work. I mean,
Mhm.
it works in whites and doesn't work in black, or
Mhm.
does work in
Mhm.
blacks
Blacks and don't work
and
in
yeah,
whites. Mhm.
and or what the effects or
Mhm.
what the trauma in our DNA
Mhm.
for all of those years, 400 years of going
Mhm.
through that,
Mhm.
what it has produced in us, and nobody's really done that.
No.
And so that's why that's important, because of those type what you just said,
Mhm.
it that being in our mind, because you have to go on, and the
Yeah.
same things that we go through, a lot of white people could go through half
They couldn't.
10% of the stuff that black people, yeah, that black people go through, because you know every day
Mhm.
you have to keep going on. I heard a guy on, they were actually talking about Mike Bloomberg,
Mhm.
okay, running for president
Yeah.
now, right? And he had this policy of stop and frisk in New York,
Mhm.
and they were interviewing this one kid, or they were talking about this one person,
Mhm.
and he said that during the time that Bloomberg was instituting that, he said over this time he got stopped more than 60 times
What?
just for nothing, stop and frisk. They would just, the police just roll up on you, stop you, frisk you.
Frisky.
Right. And the kid said that it got to a point where he would not go outside
Uh huh.
because he was getting stopped all the time. Now, what would happen to a white person who got, every time they walked out and they got right, they right, if they got stopped 60 times, but a black person has to accept it, and he has to go on every day. He has to keep living, and you multiply that all around the country. You have to keep going, just keep living, because this is what you're going to go through. One more thing. The guy was telling me a story. This when I was on the plane over here. This guy was sitting next to. I was telling you about that. The white guy, and he was a good guy. I mean, because he grew up in Oak Cliff.
Okay.
So he was amongst blacks when he grew up, but he was and so he's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
But he was telling me that he was in somewhere. I think he said Kentucky, and he's in military. He's dressed in military. He's got a military car, and he's got a military card, and he's trying to get gas. And one of his people who worked for him, also military, but it was a young black girl, 22, 23 years old, something like that. She's in the car, so he goes in to get gas, hands him the card, or I see, no, the gas, yeah, he handed him the card so he can get gas. And the lady behind the counter told him, we don't serve your kind here. And he's like, what? Now he's a white boy in military. He said, you don't serve what? And she said, you don't serve military? Because he couldn't understand why they would say that. And she said, another big white guy came from out of the back. Big old guy, beard down to here, big old belly, the whole thing. He walked out and said, she said, boy, we don't serve your kind here. There's another station about 20 miles down the road. And he could not figure out, he didn't understand why.
Because the black girl.
Yeah, he didn't understand. So he came out, he gets in the car, and he tells her, and he said, I can't, they won't sell me no gas here. And she said, because I'm in the car.
See?
Now and he was telling me, he said, how does she know? She's only 22 years old. I said, man, she's been black all her life. I said, so she has to deal. Of course she knows. He said, but she was only 22. I said, because but you don't have any idea the experiences that you have to go through. You live in this country.
That's right.
She understood. He said, I didn't understand why she was too young to know. How did she go? I said, I'm telling you. I said, because from a little kid, you always know that you're living here in this country, and white people don't understand. And he said, I did not know. He said, because I never have to experience it. I said, multiply that by millions of people here in this country who think the same way that you did before you saw that happen to you. I said, because a lot of white people think that it doesn't exist because they don't do it.
They don't.
But there's a segment of the country that still does it. So, what has to be exposed is that segment that is still doing it. You have to expose them to the good people, because there's a lot of good people that don't do that. They're not stuck with that. But there's some that are, and this portion of the country doesn't know that portion exists because they say they don't never see it. And
that is so true. And I'm thinking about I can't think of his name. He was a black psychiatrist who took the black doll and the white doll and put it in front of these kids. You all remember
was it Alvin Poussaint? Was it Toussaint?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but most of the black kids chose a little white doll.
Right.
And he said, where he saw we were making our issue, instead of us going to psychiatrists, letting the psychiatrists help us work through and eradicate from our mind the divide and conquer, the white supremacists over black. Because he said, he told those kids, you're beautiful. You're black. But why would you choose a white doll over a black doll when these people from slavery on has treated us like we were nothing or nobody?
Right.
And I thought about that. That makes sense. He said, until we eradicate all this mess from our psychological profile, we're going to see it over and over.
Right. Because it's a Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
It's just in a different form. It was like this guy came on television the other day. He is the other day when they had the Oscars, and a lot of the Oscars when a lot of time during the Oscars when all these celebrities are walking down the red carpet, black and white celebrities, they stop and talk to certain parts of the news media. So you have all of these different news media. You have Entertainment Tonight and all these the white people that have these big places, but then there's also black news media. And so this guy, who he said he had been to several different Oscar ceremonies, and he said some of the biggest stars would bypass him. Some of the biggest black stars would bypass him
Talk to the white.
and talk to the whites.
See?
And so he said this year he wasn't going to let that go. He was going to publicize it. So this year, what he did was he filmed it, and he filmed some of the biggest black stars. And you could hear him. He's standing right there next to him. He's saying, "Hey man, come on, talk to me. Come on, talk to me." And they just walk on by him, and they go right over to the white news media right there, and they'll say something to them, but they would not say something to him.
That is what has caught us in
exactly, and then that perpetuates the same thing that they're doing, because their grass is always greener.
That's right.
And that's the stereotype that they keep doing, and then we keep believing it.
Yes.
So we keep going. We keep going over there to those people, and instead of coming and
to our own people,
and coming to our own people. And what would it take? How much time would it take for you to stop and talk to that guy for 1 minute, and then go on to the so this time he put it on YouTube.
I'm glad.
And
I'm glad
you see,
did.
and then now you see which ones just kept walking on by. The biggest stars, some of the big people that you idolize all the time, they just walking on by, and they going to talk to the white media.
See, I just thought about what you're saying is what a lot of the black men and black women are doing, like the tennis player. They are involved with whites. They put whites over us. They don't look at themselves. All right? But yet these whites are not doing nothing to get this money. But here these blacks got all this money. Then all of a sudden they divorce them and they get all the money, like James Brown. That woman tried to do him. She went through his money when he was in jail. Went through it. And I say, oh my God, that goes back to Marcus Garvey. He let the white man take the millions he had raised from the Back to Africa movement. The white boy said, no, don't let your own kind. They'll take it or you just give him all kind. When he got out of prison and went to get his money, the association's money, organization's money, white boy said, you ain't gave me nothing. And he had started one of the biggest and best colleges in the North. I think it was in Maine for whites. And he had forgotten he had signed a little bit of something for Marcus Garvey, but Marcus never got that money back, and he died working hard. If you can't trust your own people, it's not that because they're black. It's that God will show you which heart, which soul to put your trust in and make money. Keep your money. But we keep throwing it to all these other different groups of people. Just like the black women buying all that fake hair, making the Koreans, Japanese, all these people super rich. But we cannot support our own people. So many black restaurants open, businesses open. They have to close because we're not supporting each other. That divide and conquer is the thing we must eradicate from the psychological profile. And once we get that out of the way, then we'll see a process where we're moving up.
Well, that's why what we're trying to do, what we're going to do here is important, because what's going to happen here then when black people see that you can come here and you can go to the same level or higher level of resort and go play golf here or go and get the same type of entertainment or better entertainment here. The same, you can have a vacation here rather than go to Palm Springs or rather than go to those places, and you come here and do that.
That's right.
And then what's going to really seal it is that a lot of white people will come here and support it. And then once you see that, then the thinking will change. Because now you see that your grass is just as green as theirs.
Or a little bit greener, yes.
Your grass is just as green as theirs. I mean, it's sad that it would take that to change your thinking, but that will change your thinking, because what you can end up doing, you can get a lot of white people will come and see,
Oh
will come
yes.
and do it because they're not stuck on racism like other white people are. And then plus you can attract people who like the blues or people who like
Yes,
black
yes,
culture from
yes.
all around the
All
world,
around the
and you can
world.
bring them here, and you can
Mm-hmm.
bring millions and millions of people here
Yes,
to,
yes.
if you set things up and you have the entertainment and
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then you can bring black culture not only from the U.S. here to
But
make
from
it a
all over.
centralized place,
Mm-hmm.
but you can bring it from the Caribbean,
That's
you
right.
can bring it from Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you can bring segments of it here. So just like when you go to Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
you you know if you go to Vegas, you're gonna be entertained because you can find all types of entertainment in
Right,
Vegas,
right,
right? Other
right.
than gambling, you can find entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you can go see, and I'm making up names because I don't
Yeah.
know these people are there, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say J Lo is there,
Yeah.
Beyonce is there for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time. Some people are you got comedians that are in
Mm-hmm.
Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are there forever.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same thing here.
That's right.
You can have comedy stores, comedy clubs. You can
Right.
have uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, different types of entertainment there, and you know from wherever you are in the United States that if you want to see this entertainer, they will always be in Mount Bayou.
That's right.
Or this entertainer, let's say Chris Rock. I'm just making up a
Mm-hmm.
name.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Rock is going to be here for 2 months.
Yeah.
So people from around the country can make a trip here to go
That's right.
see not only Chris Rock,
But
but they can go to
others.
the museums. They can
Mm-hmm.
see all
Mm-hmm.
the history stuff that we going to bring into the museums. Plus, they can see Chris Rock. Plus, they
Mm-hmm.
can go to. You can also go to an amusement park. You
Mm-hmm.
can see the Black Rodeo here.
Yeah.
You can see
Yeah.
Universal Circus if
Mm-hmm.
they will come here or something like that.
Yes.
You can go to different. You can go see Chris Rock. You can see different comedy clubs. You can see all types of things here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in one place. You have the finest hotels. If you want to play golf, you want to play tennis. If you want to play, if
Yeah.
you want to do water sports, everything is here in one
Everything is
place.
here.
And so
Mm-hmm.
this place will be filled with people. And then plus,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, what we're going to also do is here we're going to have places where the best black athletes
Mm-hmm.
can come and you can have NFL camps or you
Yeah.
can have just
Yeah.
football camps,
Yeah.
baseball camps,
Mm-hmm.
basketball
Basketball.
camps. You
Mm-hmm.
have basketball tournaments here.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the kids come in
Track and
here,
field.
track and field.
Mm-hmm.
Then on top of that, we're gonna do the black reunions. We're gonna
Oh
sell black
yeah.
reunions. So all
Yeah.
during the summer months,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be filled with people having reunions,
Yeah.
family reunions here.
Yeah.
The hotels will be
Yeah.
filled, and then
Yeah.
all of those people can go to all the museums.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to all the other entertainments. You know, the entertainment that is here, and people will be here all the time having a good time. And it would be this place will be full all the time. That's all
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And
That's the idea. Then people will start saying, you know what, we got something that we can sell.
we can say
We can market ourselves, and we have a
Mhm.
culture that we can market that's ours.
that's right.
And then the thinking will change,
You're
and then you
right.
can do that around. You can the whole thinking will change, and Mount Bayou will
Yes.
be it would be significant all around the
all
country and
around
all
the
around the
country and
world.
And then you have people like Ken Peters and others who stepped in, but they stepped out like Van and others, then wanting to come back
Right.
and be a part. But if you can't last long when it's being built, the foundation and move it,
Yeah.
why you want to come in and
Well, I don't fault those. I mean, I don't, I don't fault them. I don't, because they can't. Everybody doesn't have the passion like
We do.
We do, and there's levels of passion, and and so you know, I really want to bring everybody in and forgive everybody for
Mhm.
whatever and bring them all in
As
because they
Ken
have a
say,
talent. Because that's the only
he
way we're
wants
gonna
to
really do.
build the, he got the deal for building these homes
Prefab
and
homes.
all
Yeah,
that kind of
I
stuff.
want
They
Ken to
wanna
come. You know, if we can, when we get to the point where it's comfortable for him,
be.
because it's gonna be different levels. We can't really throw anybody
Yeah.
away.
Now I got an
Okay.
option on the
Mhm.
land
Mm-hmm.
that he wanted to do the building here.
Oh, okay.
But he never did do anything.
Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna get to that point where he can still come, and I don't fault Ken. I really don't.
Well, Van said, Velma, I'm struggling. I need money, so I can't come and do this. That,
I don't fault Van.
So, okay.
You know.
Just be honest up front.
Yeah, well.
Mm-hmm.
I want Van to come. Van, everybody. You know, we need to bring them all in. So.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get me a little drink now.
I think it's taking off the table because it's in the way.
It's in the way.
Anybody want some?
Yeah, so he gonna hit it. He gonna hit it on the way of taking taking it off the table. Might well hit it. Ain't but a little bit. It's just a Kona.
You want some?
It's just a Kona. Give me that Kona.
My first cousin's daughter makes cranberry wine. Oh, that stuff is good, but I'm not a drinker because of my diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
But they are getting ready. She makes different kinds of wine. She's spent time in service, but they're getting ready to build her a winery. So I said, well, good. And you remember your folk when you start making all that money, you better take care of your grandmother because she's taking care of you. But I thought they had a big gathering at one of the top hotels in Houston, and they presented her wine as well as other blacks who painted and just did all kinds of things. Saw some beautiful stuff there, but it was very, very expensive. But some of the black artists, oh man, they had beautiful.
And that's another thing that I was gonna say. We're gonna bring the best black artists from around the world, have galleries here, and so it'll always be something to come. All that talent, all that stuff, and then we're gonna have people come here and they start making movies here. Studios will be here. The movie studios be here and the audio studios be here. So people will come in and make records and stuff like that. You do it here. And the plays. That's another thing I didn't say. And the plays. So you can not only, so instead of going to Broadway in New York to see an expensive play, you come here and you see the best black plays here. And there'll be venues. So now you'll have more people who have that talent create plays that they know that they can bring them here, and those plays would be playing here instead of playing in New York. They'd be playing here for a year or 2 years or whatever. You play them here, and you have 10 venues having different plays, and you can go take your choice. Go see one night, go see another one the next night, and another the next night, and then you can have a place also where every night you can go see gospel music.
Oh yes. Now,
and every night you go see gospel music, and you go see that, and then so every night you're arriving here, and so then you also have a place, more than one place, where you could do conventions.
Yes.
And so conventions gonna bring in 2 to 3 or 4, 5,000 people at a time. Those people are coming out and they're going to be entertained. They're spending money here, And so you do all these tournaments, all these other things, the family reunions, the whole thing. The whole place becomes a money making a place. And then you got all these black people that are here in business. You bring the best black soul food restaurants from around the country here, and so now you got all these people here in business. It changes the thinking. It changes the mindset, right? So that's where we're going, and then you're telling the history.
Yes.
So all of this stuff right here that you're saying is going to be a part of that history.
And I just thought about The Color Purple.
Yeah.
The lady that plays Oprah's character.
Yeah.
I got a contact from Dr. Neely, who DNA showed he was my cousin. He was the first black.
Of course, he's your cousin.
At Harvard. And
of course,
she is your cousin, and you need to get in contact.
Who is your cousin?
The girl that plays Oprah's character.
Oh, okay.
The Color Purple.
That plays it. Plays it where? Oh, in the play. They have a play about it now.
They have a play about Color
Oh,
Purple
okay,
now.
gotcha. Okay.
And he was saying she was doing so good. And I said, why didn't you call me? Because I saw you on Facebook, and then I saw you on Ancestry. You're my little cousin. And this is what he said. girl, he sent me pictures too. When I was in World War II, I was down there. He said, and I went over to this place, and these white girls, he was from North Carolina, but he moved to New York at an early age. These white girls wouldn't let me rest, and I started dating one. And so this big black guy come up to me, and then a white guy. If you don't leave these white girls alone, they gonna find your ass. What's the uh here in Texas, the army base? It's in going toward West Texas.
Fort Bragg?
I don't know. He said that's where he was in Texas. They said they gonna find your ass home with a uniform on, dating a white gal. He said when he went back and started working on his doctorate, got his doctorate and was hired at Harvard, he married a white girl. And I said, well, that's your business. I congratulate you. And he's about 95, 96. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeez.
And he was the one, he said, when that plane comes to Houston, I want you to go meet. I think her name is Creasy. That's what they call it, Creasy. But it hasn't come to Houston yet. I said, man, I get all this information. Whoa, what do I ever do with it?
So people just call you and tell you that you their cousin.
Because I put that thing because of the ancestry. I told you this man called me up and told me, he said, I'm glad you put that on there about your brother, the disease, the Great Wall of China. He said, because my grandmother was going through what your brother went through. When I found out about the motion relaxant, I told the doctor, she's doing 1,000 times better. He said, but the ancestor of you and me, his name was Lim Lu. And said his
Lim Lu.
Lim Lu. And said his
he's Chinese.
He's Chinese. Said the ship he was on crashed in South Carolina at the waters near South Carolina, and a Creek African woman saved him, and he ended up marrying a Creek African woman. But so many people got these diseases from the building of the Great Wall of China. You know, and we don't know, and that's what I was telling
Daddy.
Daddy, we have to
How
check.
come we don't have relatives like this? We go back and say, my relative was Lim Lu, and he crashed on the... How come we don't do that? How come we just can't
And
just...
you know what that tells you? That they were here 300 or 400 years before Columbus came. See? The Chinese were already here. And the Africans filled all the west coast. That's why they call it California. I put it on Facebook. The African goddess, top African goddess at the time, was called California. And the Portuguese came around South America, came up to the west side, and all they saw were African tribes. They didn't see no Native Americans. Then what happened, the Native Americans, and now they're saying that they are more Middle Eastern than Asian. And you know, they used to say that Native Americans, a lot of them were Asian. So they came across the Bering Strait, but the Africans were already here. And the oldest skeleton that they found of a black person in this country, not this country, the New World, is down at the tip of Brazil. 13,500 years old. The oldest Native American, so say, 11,500. So that shows right there, we were here.
Wow, how about that? How about that?
I tell you, I just have to say, my old teachers back in the day, Aunt Pace and Aunt Fanny and all of them, just like Carrie White told me. She said, baby, you all heard of the Yellow Rose of Texas. You heard that song?
Yeah.
The Yellow Rose of Texas.
Yeah.
That was written by Big Joe Brown's son. The mother died. Emily West. Her mother was African. Her daddy was Spanish, a Portuguese. He was from Kitts, St. Kitts. She was born in Connecticut, where she came down as a servant, house servant, to Bolivar Island, not far from Galveston. Okay, old crazy man. He was the one, Santa Ana. He saw and liked her, and he sent men to get her and bring her to where they had the San Jacinto, the fight on the San Jacinto River. She had the little boy that she was being a mother to go tell her love, Big Joe Brown, that he could beat the Mexican military because Santa Ana was high on cocaine. And most people say, how they didn't have cocaine? Well, the mummies, Ramses' body is full of cocaine. They said they don't even think he knew when he died. Okay, when he died. So the boy went, told his daddy got all these people together with Sam Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat the hell out of the Mexicans. So then, because they wouldn't give blacks their freedom, Joe Brown went on to Arizona. Okay, now I'm at this meeting, African Americans, whites, we were talking about Texas history. So I was telling these black people about Big Joe Brown. Here this white girl gonna come up to me, I can't find him, and I've been looking for him. I wanted to do a story. I said, you think the hell I'm gonna give you the information I got? No, I'm not. And she, oh, but now, I said, get away from me. Joe Brown's great nephew told me when the Civil War ended, he moved back to Alabama. I went on the census records, he's there. And guess what? Big Joe Brown was the brother of Boxcar Brown.
Well, now, who was Joe Brown?
Joe Brown was the one who let Sam Houston know that Santa Ana was on that cocaine.
Okay.
And he was crazy.
Sure, okay.
Now, what happened when the war was over, the vice president under Sam Houston of Texas fell in love with Emily West, married her. It broke Big Joe Brown's heart. And he had his little son, because she had taught him how to read and write, to write The Yellow Rose of Texas.
No.
What?
Joe Brown was white.
He was, huh?
Joe Brown was white.
No, he was black. Joe Brown was black. See, what people don't realize, the first person killed, just like Christopher Sadix, the first person killed was in Goliad, a black man, during the Texas. He came from Alabama with the white group that came. So Joe Brown was already here, and they just pulled him in, and it was quite a few blacks. But after the war, they had to either leave Texas or become slaves. So he left Texas and went to Arizona. But after the Civil War, he went back to Alabama. And his great-great-nephew told me that and I looked up the census, and he went back there.
So who does it say? Who gets credit for writing the Yellow Roses, Texas?
A white person, some white person.
Okay, but actually, it was wrote by.
It was
say it
written
again.
by Joe Brown, Big Joe Brown, because he was tall and big. His son, he gave the son the information to put in the song, and that was dedicated to his love, Emily West, who married D. Zavala. He was the vice president to Sam Houston.
Oh, boy.
This crazy. Ain't this the
His wife, D. Zavala's wife, had gotten pregnant. No, Emily West had gotten pregnant, and he sent her to New York, and somehow his wife died, and he went to New York and married her and brought her back. And their children, their daughters, really pushed to keep the Alamo as a historical site. And I had put that on Facebook, and that woman come and told me, sent me Emily West wasn't black, and her daughters, I say, you need to speak what you know. I say, once they do that DNA, they're going to show that they are. And when they come after me and I get on their butts, they don't come back to me. But my history teacher, born in 1884, told me that her grandmother was Sam Houston's slave.
Man.
And she said, Big Joe Brown knocked on the door and said, Mr. Houston, this is what Emily said. We can win the war if we go now onto the Sandy Center area because Santa Ana is loaded on cocaine. And that's why in the movie he hides. You can't see him nowhere. And all of a sudden, this young young white guy finds it, and he doesn't put up no resistance or nothing.
This
But
is
he
too
had
much.
had
This is just too
Vicente
much.
Guerrero, the president of Mexico who won Mexico's independence from Spain. Santa Ana had him killed because his mother was African, his dad was black.
This is
No,
this is
his
too
dad was
crazy.
Spanish.
This is too
And
crazy.
and I argued with Google to prove that he was black. So they finally have on when you Google him now, it said he's a mulatto, but Miss White had no reason to lie about what her grandmother told her. Sam Houston said Vicento was black, and they got along. So it's amazing. It really is amazing. And it's old people like that inspired me
God,
to get as much
dog.
information as I could.
God, dog. And you ain't through.
No.
You ain't through. You ain't through.
No.
You,
But
God.
yeah, Emily West in Yellow Rose of Texas.
Look,
My head is blown. I can't even. My goodness.
And see, we have to put that information down here also to tell the whole African American history of all the states and what have you. Whatever we have like that, we put it on the walls in the museum down here.
Right. Exactly.
but you know what? Now this is a historical meeting for Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you won't have a chance to talk, but you could spend 2 or 3 days giving the history of what you've given that could help to develop what we're talking about down here.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll be talking with the museum specialist,
Yeah.
and we'll see what we can get done. But
Somebody got to help me categorize this stuff because you got too much.
Historical information. That's historical information.
This is crazy. This is
Yeah,
because
people don't wanna tell the truth.
because what you see here is America is always, like I said before,
Mhm.
they're always erasing history. They're
That's
always
right.
erasing.
Mhm.
It's always something that they are changing
Mhm.
because they have to fit every day. They have to fit the narrative
Mhm.
every day. And Trump is the epitome of it.
He is. He is.
Because I've never seen anybody like he can come and say, turn around right after he is not convicted, and turn around and say, those people are nasty.
Yes.
Everything that he's doing, he's saying is that
That they're doing it.
they're doing it. They're nasty. They're trying to destroy America. And then he goes right along and starts trying to destroy America. He's one in talking about. He's the one. If you see him tell the people, say, okay, I am trying to save pre-existing conditions on this healthcare. I'm trying to save healthcare.
Mhm.
At the same time, his lawyers are in there every
All
day
day,
fighting
uh-huh.
to destroy healthcare,
That's right.
but he's
That's
turning
right.
around and telling
Because
them,
he's a liar.
and he's just
Yeah.
lying. I mean, he's straight up and he's telling the lie
Mhm.
as if this lie is the
Mhm.
truth.
And they'll believe it.
And then you got a segment of the United States that don't know no better,
Uh-huh.
and they believe everything that he
Yeah.
says.
Nothing but
And,
a
and
lie.
and so I mean, it's the epitome of this whole movement in America. You can see all the
Yeah. You're so right. And I remember this guy was somewhere with James Brown and my sister over in Aiken, North Carolina, South Carolina. That's where James Brown lived. And he was telling us
Mhm.
that Trump was going with, what's the boxer name? Got that stuff on his face.
Mike Tyson.
Was going with Mike Tyson's wife. He encouraged Mike, but he was going with the mother first. Then he turned around and encouraged the girl to go with Mike Tyson.
Robin Givens?
Yeah, and then he turned around and told her to leave him and get all his money. And the guy said, I don't have no reason to lie. I'm a friend with Mike Tyson. And you all know somebody I shared it with. Said, Trump, and I didn't even know who Trump was.
Well, it's on
back
here
then.
though. That's on. I'm just saying. Right? I got it now. Okay.
He said he was going with the mother first. And then he started going with the daughter. And he encouraged the daughter to leave Mike Tyson and get all his money. And that's why he made this statement. Black people, just black women and men, they just sex crazy, because he was sex crazy.
Right. Oh yeah. He says whatever
Uh-huh.
whatever he does, he
Yeah,
projects
put it
on somebody else.
Uh-huh.
So the epitome of that is, you know, throughout this nation's history, they killed and hung and lied and da 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 all